Welcome everyone to the special council meeting of Monday, May 6, 2024. Members of the public can be present in the council chambers during the meeting. And also please note that the webinar will be recorded and published on the city's YouTube site. The first item on the agenda tonight is the adoption of the agenda. Is there someone that would like to make that? Councillor Martin and Councillor Hanson, all those in favor? Thank you, carried unanimously. And the second item on the agenda is the 2023 operating surplus allocation to reserves. And I will pass it over to CAO McClure.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Council, for coming on the special meeting here on the 6th. Sort of a odd reason to have the event here, and it has to do with sort of the date. You have to have everything by the 15th, and so if we had, most cases, you might have an extra day, so we would have maybe on the 13th, and then on the 15th, but you have to have it done before the 15th. So say, for example, it was May 12th, we could have had May 12th and May 14th, and then we would have had the deadline, so this is why we're already had the schedule in for council, and then we'll adopt these on the 13th, but that's why we're here today a week early, just to get the first few readings of these different types of bylaws. This one here is only a resolution, and it is one that we had talked about when we were going through budget to actuals for 2023, when we were preparing for the 2024 to 2028 financial plan bylaw. We noted that we had some benefits of a few items that had caused us to have a surplus, and taking an opportunity to be able to apply those surpluses into areas that will benefit our taxpayers overall in the future, but also allow us to support some pressure that we're feeling on certain reserves, just with the cost inflation that we're getting on a number of capital projects. And again, even on the infrastructure side, we're underfunded there, and this will be a way to be able to top that up a bit and give us a bit more time as we get the plan in place and understanding what kind of capital infrastructure renewal program we need to have over the next, I would say, 10 to 20 years is what the hope the plan comes out with. And this is just again an opportunity, unexpected. And so we're taking that opportunity, but to be able to do that, I cannot just make that, as much as I would like to, make a decision of putting monies into different reserves. I need to bring that forward to council, and that's why it's here today. Again, I don't know if the council has any questions on it, but there is just a resolution. I think I've tried to be straightforward in the report as to how we got there and where these items would go.
Any questions or comments? No? Okay, so I will read the recommendation out for everyone. The recommendation is that council approve the following allocation of the 2023 operating surplus of $1,518,510 as follows. $900,000 to the Water Fund Infrastructure Reserve, $370,820 to the Capital Projects Reserve, and $247,690 to the Equipment Reserve for the direction to staff to pay off, with the direction to staff to pay off the outstanding debt of the Vector truck from that reserve in 2024. So the recommendation is before you. Councillor Benson, second. Councillor Wilson. All those in favor? Carried unanimously, thank you. The next item on the agenda is 2.2, the kids rink underfloor heat and TNC dehumidifier upgrades award.
Thanks, George. So as common practice here, we have a project that's in front of us. We had a budget that was significantly lower than what we got on the bid. We did only have one bidder, so we're glad that we've got one bidder. That's a good thing. This project is part of the overall phasing in of the heat recovery, and so we need to work on it. The other part that we're challenged with is the date, because we have to have the project up and running so that we get ice in, so that we have ice for the hockey for skating overall. Early enough in July that it gets set and it's ready for September, October, August, and September. The questions that we have is certainly the engineers who are the ones that help us in creating the bid package for this. We're surprised that it was as high as it was. Again, as we only have one bidder, we want to be able to work with that bidder and again, try to find out what it is that they may be seeing. Again, not uncommon when you're going into a project or to put in a bid, that if you see some things that concern you, you want to make sure that your contingency is big enough. And so that's one of the questions that we want to work with the proponent, the loan bidder, to see if there's areas of concern that they have that we can help mitigate that risk, which again, try to lower the price. And so that's where we're looking for, if we're unable to do that, that we've got the money in the budget to be able to get this project done this year. Coupled with the fact that we also were looking for permission from council to work with the give authority for us to enter into a contract as we work through it, not to exceed what they currently bid. My hope is that, and there's certainly no engineers who want to meet with the proponent and kind of again find out, they were quite surprised. And so when they're surprised, then being experts in the field, we want to make sure that we're finding out what it is that we can do to try to find some efficiencies or some savings.
Okay, any questions or comments, Council Pence?
Just a question on, I think it's 4.6 in the report. It talks about the structural analysis not being able to be completed prior to the issuance of the proposal. And so the kind of like the buffer on top of the 117,000, would that include, would we use that before going to like change orders for the structural part, or?
Well, again, good question. Not 100% sure on my side. The part that, again, because of the timeline of trying to get this thing with the contractor, I think most of it is if we're with that analysis, if there is that an area where they've got concern, they built in contingency for that. And if it's like, yes, it is, and it's like, well, maybe we could do it with our own forces, or is there another way of trying to mitigate some of that? But as far as the budget for the additional work, or that engineering.
Phase two.
Phase two, yeah, and that's all part of, I think, I would say a confidence that we've got something, we just didn't have time to get it out in front, and so being able to work on it should allow us and ongoing to be comfortable that A, we've got some money to make sure that we're all right, and B, that the proponent and bidding on it is comfortable that they're going to see what it is that we're looking for, and that they're again comfortable with the risk isn't too much.
Thank you.
So, that's a really quick timeline that they have, July 22nd, doesn't really give, so.
And this is why we're bringing it forward,
Mhm.
to council, and,
Yeah.
and part of it as well, just as we were, I think at the time, we were saying, we're trying to pass the budget, so I've got these items included in the new financial plan. So timing wise, we thought it was important because we hope to meet with the proponent this week.
Okay, is there any other questions or comments? Okay, so the recommendation is before you, and I'll just read that out for council. And the recommendation is that council approve the increase to the 2024 budget of the kids rink underfloor heat and TMC dehumidifier upgrade project to $1,638,000 and $1,638,330 and direct staff to work with the loan bidder, West Kootenai Mechanical Limited, to look for efficiencies and project risk mitigation in order to lower the contract prices. And that through the process, council provides authority to staff to enter into a contract not to exceed $1,521,330 plus all applicable taxes, fees, and charges. Is there someone that's happy with that recommendation? Councillor Martin, thank you, and Councillor Wilson. All those in favor? Thank you, carried unanimously. Item number 3, bylaws.
Yes, so, first of all, council apologizes that you would have received this later in the day than what we had proposed. Again, it was overrun by Silver City Days work that I couldn't get out of. And so that's my excuse to understand. But I'm hoping that there's some clarity here in what was happening or what's going on. Moving to a consolidated reserve bylaw that we are doing is best practices for municipalities. And as you can see in some of the repeal items, there's a number of items in there that, no, we just had some housekeeping as well. And what really sparked this, although we were looking at it last year, the big thing was the fact that the municipal, or the province provided us with the growing communities fund, and part of their criteria is that it needs to go into reserve. So other than, you could have just set up a growing communities fund reserve separate, but then it was also like, well, I noticed that we've got these other reserves that actually don't have any, they're not in the bylaw. And so it took an opportunity for us to go through, look at, consolidate a number, like we had, water operating, water capital, and we had another water reserve, and it's sort of confusing because you want to be able to look at and say, how much money do we have in reserve for the water fund? And that's is where we will get to now, once we finish if this passes, these bylaws, then we will make that arrangement. So when you look at the new note, 12-13 this year for the reserves, you will see this being consolidated, and I think it'll give us a much better number as to what we're working with and what we have available for the capital projects, whether or not that's for the sewer utility, water utility, or for the capital reserves. I think it's going to be cleaner and more effective. I do know that we've got, I think, some additional work to do on the reserves. And when I say that, I believe that there are other reserves that council should consider. One of them I noted in there was the financial stabilization fund. Now, again, this year, we had some pressing issues and we were able to use that unexpected surplus and sort of bolster that, and we could do that again. But the other thing you can do, something like, for example, what happens a lot of times with these financial stabilization bylaws will be, say you have a really slow, low snow year, but you had a big snowplow budget. Well, you know that's usually one year over another, that can change. But if you had a big year, you could take that savings, sort of put that in that financial stabilization fund. And then if you had a big winter, say in 2 years, you could borrow from that fund and kind of smooth out on that taxation and not say, oh, hey, we need to increase taxes by 2% this year because we've had so much snow in January and February. And or if there's other unexpected expenses you have. So again, you get an unexpected surplus, another way of dealing with it. Yes, we put ours into some reserves because of cost pressure, but another common practice is to have this financial stabilization fund, which is more on the operating side, really does assist with tax smoothing over time. And so those are things that we're not gonna need for this year, but I believe that as we get into the bylaw, we have our general manager, Butler, we looked at a policy, so there's a number of things I think that we need to discuss. I also think that it would be prudent upon us. Another one that I was thinking about is just sort of an IT budget. We sort of have it lumped in the capital, but also another common thing to do is to find out where do we charge out for IT and charge it out to the different services that we have. And, when you're charging that out, you're taking that fund and putting it into its own IT fund sort of piece, and then that's also becomes a place where, okay, we're doing that every year, and so it's not like every 3 years that, okay, I need $500,000. You should be building that up kind of over time, and then allowing that to cover the cost of IT infrastructure, and kind of pushing it out to the places where you've got 20 computers. Well, they should be, an expense category that should pick up more of the cost of the IT. So these are all things that we're working on as we kind of increase the standards of what's happening with finances out of the city of Toronto. But for today's, I was hoping it was somewhat simple. It kind of laid out the fact that we will now have the Growing Communities Fund. We had, for example, the Community Works Fund, which again is something that's been there for a while, but it just didn't also have the bylaw associated with it. We always follow what's the criteria is for Community Works Fund, but this also kind of really lays it out and it makes it easier for removal and or for addition for reserves now that we have this consolidated. Again, I'm happy to take any questions that council may have, and I do again apologize that I came in late.
Okay, seeing no questions or comments, we'll move to the recommendation. And the recommendation is that the Reserve Fund Establishment Bylaw number 2939, 2024 be read a first, second, and third time. Councillor Hanson, Councillor Benson, all those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And the bylaw 3.2, the financial plan bylaw number 2940, 2024.
Yes, fantastic. It's only been 6 or 7 months with council going through different iterations of utility budgets and then operating budgets and capital budgets. And so pleased to bring forward to you the 2024 to 2028 financial plan bylaw. Again, this is a requirement by the province, has to be completed and approved by council by May 15th. And these all need to go into the province. So this is where these dates kind of get in this time frame. You'll find most municipalities are passing them over the last number of weeks here, so there's a flurry of activity. And sometimes too, when council looks at this and I go, hey, wait a second, this is a bit different. It's sort of, yes, it is. So if you, again, that culmination of like, here's the water fund, here's the sewer fund, here's the capital fund, here's the general fund, and it's all squished together into one document. And again, it's to have all of the items that are expected to and or approved for council for us to move forward on. One of the things that the province does, and when they do the 5 years, a lot of times, because you're not passing it until May 15th, even though that allows us to continue operating into January, February of the following year, because you've got this 5-year bylaw in place, even though you may be working on 2025 in more detail in 2025, but this allows us to continue operating. That's why they have that 5-year. And I think it's also really the practice to have that long-term 5-year goals. I mean, I do admit it's a bit difficult in some places we know, and I think we've done a pretty good planning, but you'll also notice that the capital, we've got, quite a bit, 16 million, basically in 2024. We've got another big year in 2025. But then as they start to go out a few more years, you're seeing the numbers really starting to dwindle, but that's also just a reflection of not knowing what else is gonna be coming down in those other years. And again, obviously feeling comfortable with it, again, 2021, probably 2025 numbers are the detailed numbers. Again, there's everything that we need to have in here. And again, the allocations for reserves, all of that, again, especially with the new reserve bylaw, allowing us just to be able to fund out of the financial plans we're paying for. And yeah, I'm glad that we're at the end. I guess I could say that, and maybe council is as well. But I think in a much more comfortable place that we've had a number of good meetings with council. And last year it was a bit more, please trust me and let's get through this. And I'm hoping that there was more education and more opportunity for thoughts and for feedback. I did note that I did not get any comments from anybody on the public. I was very excited because Storm from the media had contacted me and wanted to discuss the budget with me, but then she got busy and she wasn't available. So I even failed on getting the media to kind of get in front of us on this report. But I was glad that we were at least getting some media on our budget and all the effort and time that goes into it, because there's a lot that goes on, and I'm really thankful for the staff, all of my employee staff, and Ms. Cucini and Ms. Butler, and obviously Lois Hunter, our financial analyst, big pieces in making sure that the numbers are in the correct way, and that we're, again, working with all of the public works and the rec groups on the capital projects that we have. We have a lot of projects going on, as you know, whether or not it's the Daniel Street project that's underway. Again, we're excited to get started on the heat recovery project and lots of good things. I think that our community will be thankful that we're taking care of some of the infrastructure. That's all, man.
Just a comment. No, I'm really happy that we've got the water master plan update in the budget for this year. Because as budget is a major, or the budget for water is a major deficit in the near future, this is nice to see, and so we can allocate funds accordingly as needed for water and how to spend it and where to spend it.
Yes. And again, Councilor Hanson has a great point to raise. We have that in the budget. It has not been put out to tender. So again, depending on where they're at with things, my goal was to make sure that we had something for the fall. We may not be able to meet that timeline. We're going to go for it, but that's where we're at right now.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, so I will read the recommendation out. The recommendation is that the financial plan bylaw number 2940, 2024 be read a first, second, and third time. And Councillor Wilson, Councillor Benson, all those in favor? Carried unanimously, thank you. And 3.3, tax rates bylaw number 2941.
Okay, so whenever we have a budget, we gotta pay for it. So as much as we've done well on grants, in different areas, there is a taxing component to it. However, I do know that we did have some successes, as we noted in the financial plan, whether or not that was, working with our partners in Roslyn and getting some more money for the TRP. Also, seeing some savings on, lighting with Fortis, and also, just the move by council to have those that are paying by credit card have fees so that we're not bearing the cost of people getting the points on their card. So some of the big savings there are expectations of those savings. And that's helped, I think, less pressure on what would be on our tax increase for this year. So at 4.25, it's, yes, it's gonna be $40 for the average home. I know that, again, it's like, looking at your tax notice, you may not notice, you may think of an average home above or below. I think we talked enough, but I hope that council is prepared and feels comfortable enough that someone asks them, that they understand where things fit. As far as that we are a collection agency, when you get that tax notice for a number of entities, whether that's for the school taxes for the province, whether or not that's for the RDKB, who does some great services for us, and so they take care of our our wastewater treatment plant. They also are obviously the components of the regional fire services, which I think is quite valuable to have it at that regional function. And they've also, again, this year, one of the things you would have noticed, maybe didn't notice, but in this year's financial plan is that there was nothing for the environmental group anymore, because they're now doing that collection and also collecting not only your garbage, but also doing your organics, which I think is a really good, valuable and sustainable move for the region. As far as taxes goes, the one thing here to be clear is that this is just for this year's taxes. It was the error from last year. I think we talked about it a number of times in a number of meetings that we will be recouping that. And again, it'll be based on what last year's rate should have been for the RDKB and your assessed value from last year. So you should not be in a case of like, hey, my house went up a lot. Am I paying more? It's like, no, whatever your value was for your assessed value in 2023 is what we used to, and then just looked at what the gap was between the rate that should have been charged for RDKB and what was charged. So that's been set up as a payable in our books, and then we're collecting that, recouping that back from our residents and businesses for 2020. On the 2024 tax notices, the goal is to have that as a line itself, separate from everything else, hopefully to alleviate confusion. And again, as a city, we paid that full amount on the tax requisition of RDKB, so there's their whole. Spent a number of time with all three components this year on tax notices to make sure that the numbers that we have been triple checked, so that I'm not having to come forward with any type of hair on fire, confusion of what's going on. So that part was a one-time error, and again, I'm really responsible for that, but we've gotten through it, I think, and again, with this year, I think as well, just with some of the savings that we've worked on as an organization should soften the blow on kind of what the overall tax base increase could have been, and so that hopefully will take a bit of a softening as well of trying to recoup taxes that were actually should have been collected in 2023. I don't really have much else on that. Again, just noting a couple of things that I will is that when we discussed last time is the city of Trail uses a fixture approach, kind of talking about that in some of the documents, so that we try to make sure that we're that same pie sharing, whether or not that's between business, residential, and our major industries. So we always, depending on what happens with the rates, especially in the last number of years, residential gone up significantly. This year you're flat, but major industry went up. But we make sure that that pie of what we want to collect stays in that same structure, even with the assessed value changes. And so that keeps it consistent for our, again, our homeowners, our businesses, and for the major industry. Whereas under school tax, RDKB, and the hospital tax, there's a fixed sharing ratio. And so residents have been paying more of those taxes because we've had such a big increase in our assessed values. little bit of a break this year, so major industry had gone up, there's a, a significant jump, and same with business had gone up as compared to, the residential, so this year on those taxes, you're seeing someone, even though there's, a slight increase in, for example, hospital tax, it's actually you're paying less this year for hospital, if you're residential, than you would be, had you had previous years, and again, business and, heavy industry will pick that up. So again, there's always sort of a mixed ratio depending on what's happening with assessed values that we as a city have no control over. That is it's structured
Mhm.
and again, something that has had some big effects on taxes over the last number of years with the reallocating of it more to residential because of the 50% in 2022 and 23 in assessed value increases. So again, just a bit of a flattening this year and a bit of a break for residents as well. So, I'm okay, that's.
Any questions for Mr. McClure? Any comments? Okay. So I guess we'll move on to the recommendation, and the recommendation is that the tax rates bylaw number 2941, 2024 be read a first, second, and third time. Counselor Hanson, Counselor Cashel, all those in favor? Carried unanimously, thank you. And the next item, 3.4, the Juanita Junction parcel tax amendment bylaw number 2942, 2024.
So, this was an interesting one, Mayor, we had I guess a homeowner in Oneida asking about, hey, what is this thing about? And, so they asked some questions about it, and so it took a little bit of digging by Ms. Legini, back in the day, and we looked at it, and there have been changes to what the rate had been over time. So a lot of times when you do these MFA borrowings, they kind of lock in your rate for the first 10 years. And then there's kind of usually a 5-year increments after that. And so in looking at the increments and then looking at what the overall cost was going to be. So there had been a decrease in what interest cost had been as expected, as compared to what was expected at the time of the first 10 years. So this rate has dropped a number of times. And so we've had our senior financial analysts go over and look at, okay, here's what these group of properties, and again, remembering that they came in 20-some years ago, and there was some significant upgrades that need to happen to the water system at that time. And it's common to have sort of similar to sort of that improvement districts where you've got say you've got a subdivision that doesn't have paving, but you've got 8 homes on it, and they want to get it paved. It's a common sort of idea saying, well, we can pay that, city usually pays a portion of that because it's going to be used, but also the homeowners come together and they say, yes, we'll agree to that, and then pay that off over their taxes. And this is something similar that happened back in the days, that they're paying their portion over time. Now, in the same boat, if we didn't adjust the rate down, then we would have over collected from them. And so this is where we looked at the numbers and said, okay, based on this being paid off in 2026, we know what principal and interest payment is going to be. They have a portion of that. It's, I'm not sure exactly why it's 8.2 or whatever with the number in the day, but we were making sure that over the next 3 years, if we lower what the parcel tax is for that group, then when this debt is paid off in 2026, they will have paid the portion that they committed to back in 20 years ago. So again, I was really glad that Ms. Legini got the call, that we were able to correct it, because I know in the past, there had been a situation where the rate had changed and they kind of over collected, and then they were trying to give a refund back. And so we were trying to avoid that. And again, having this rate set as where it's at, it will be set for the next 3 years, and then the debt will be paid off, and those homeowners will be, it'll be balanced.
Thanks.
And again, Mayor, I don't know if there's any questions on that one. I hope the staff report made sense.
Any questions?
How big of an area is that? And is it like all behind the mall and like Walmart way, or is it just
I
the?
have it, as where I can share my screen if you want to see the.
Sure.
Okay. Just, you have to bear with me.
No, I think it's more like Walmart past that.
Yes, there's 100 and some off.
The hour of it.
Here we go.
Yes, so hopefully that kind of gives you the sense of the properties. I mean, again, I don't feel like I can't zoom in enough, or I need to zoom in more. Gotta see where that street is.
No, it's okay, it's for the, okay, like at the Y there, where,
Highway 22.
And the only to the last house, well, the second to last, the second.
oh, good one, okay. I believe that was, how many years ago now? Remember, yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully that, again, I can share this with council if they're interested in kind of that. Maybe it's better to be seeing them when I.
Yeah.
No, that's okay, just a better idea in terms of
Mhm.
what
It
we
doesn't include behind it.
Sorry, what was that, Sandy?
It does not include behind the wall.
But, yeah, okay, that's what I was wondering too. Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
So, if there's no other questions or comments,
yeah, just a question, are we gonna communicate that to the group there, that, is there a way to do that?
that's a good question. I think just the fact that we're doing the tax services and they're paying $40 less is probably gonna. be-
Okay.
You know, but like again, one astute person was looking at it, obviously they've been there for that long. And
Yeah.
is knowledgeable of it, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
A lot of these things, I think they're probably just gonna be able to know that we got this year, 2 more years, and then it won't be on the taxes at all. But,
Okay.
yeah, I hadn't planned on saying.
Okay.
Hopefully they're watching.
Hopefully.
okay, any other questions before we move to the recommendation? No, okay. So the recommendation before you is that the Juanita Junction parcel tax amendment bylaw number 2942, 2024 be read a first, second, and third time. Councilor Martin. And Councilor Butler. All those in favor? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Okay, just a quick comment before we adjourn. I just wanted to, and I think Mr. McClure touched on it earlier. I really want to thank staff and everyone who was involved with, getting the budget out and the financial statements. And I know we've had a lot of meetings on it as well, and I appreciate the clarity that brought forward, but, honestly, really appreciate the work that everybody did, and I hope to somehow relay that, but because of their good work and diligence and, you know, wanting to see the good things for the city, I think, and I'm excited that we've got it early this year, and really, you know, that's a lot of work.
It
Yes.
is, and again,
Yeah.
and the hope is that we just keep moving this back and getting more opportunity for more thoughts and more opportunity to get out to the public and get their feedback, although they don't always pay attention. But try to make sure that council, at least, because I know that you're the ones that will run into someone at a, you know, hockey game or at, you know, whatever.
Silver
event.
City Days.
Silver City Days and ask questions about what's going on, and so I feel that we've been a lot better. And we have also, just for council awareness, we have been putting, you know, the presentations or the links into the budget, so if someone, you know, that's it, we'll keep those things going, and we'll allow council, and we'll, hey, you've got questions, you know, kind of watch this video or follow up.
Yeah, it's actually been a good process.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is adjournment. Councilor Cashel and Councilor Butler. All those in favor? Thanks,
Council.
everyone.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah.
Council.